that I don't for real voice my opinion on religion is because that's the only thing for real that is a moral code to the people who have lost their morality or was never born with morality or morals, which is the Y chromosomes. So they really do need religions and they need to look up to another man. And so that's why I'm pro religion for men. I don't think a woman needs to be worshiping a man because it really gets the girls really confused about who they are and their power. But men for sure need religion.
Reject the fact that non-believers study science about religion. My mind is on a mission. They say I must be tripping cause my vision's slightly different. Let's talk about religion. Yeah, let's talk about religion. Yeah, let's talk about religion. My mind is on a mission. They say I must be tripping cause my vision's slightly different. Let's talk about religion. Yeah, let's talk about religion. Yeah, let's talk about religion. Muhammad said the Quran is the word of God. My jurisdiction or your tradition has my mind flipping as a Christian. My motives keep your soul lifted and have faith in the man that they say never existed. We have ethnic.
So white supremacy is trying to rise once again. And with this rise, we have a lot of stuff to talk about, ladies. We have to talk about women leaving the churches in droves, women of all races, nationalities, and creeds. We have to talk about, especially in America, these men run into the churches. And mostly I see a lot of white men run into the churches because y'all know also that with the rise of white supremacy comes the rise of Christian nationality, where they not only want Christianity to be taught in the schools and in America, they want it to be spread globally, and they want everybody to be a Christian because in order for them to be supreme or to have that supremacy, they need women, especially white women, to submit first because white women are who really holds up white supremacy. And I say that because white women birth the males who hold it up. So they need white women to get into church so they can continue to teach the younger ones to submit and to be docile and to be quiet and to obey them so that they can keep birthing white supremacy. So this is why you see them trying to take away birth control, trying to take away abortion, trying to take away women's rights, trying to silence women in the churches, and they don't want women to teach. You're going to see so many things happening at once, and the more and more we talk about it and get it out there before we're all silenced because they're trying to take away our right to speak on these platforms, the more and more we talk about it, the more and more we share these videos, the more and more we can become woke, quote unquote woke. They're demonizing that term also because they don't want this to spread. And the only way we can do that is to continue talking about it. So in this video, we're going to talk about the rise of the trad wife talk because that's what's being pushed in like places like Turning Point. They're going to be talking about it in schools, in colleges, and in churches. They want traditional wives because that is what is going to uphold and spread white supremacy faster. So we're going to talk about that also, and I'm going to be in and out as usual. Thank y'all for joining me. Please share these videos, like, comment, and subscribe. That is what helps these channels grow, and let's get into it.
Men are not leading a church revival. They're leading a religious exit. I'm Jason Boyette, and I write about religion. So a new PRRI study found that 43% of women under 30 now identify as religiously unaffiliated. In 2013, that number was 29%. That is a huge change in just 13 years. And compare it to young men. It's 35% of young men are religiously unaffiliated. So young women are now leaving Christianity faster than young men. Why does this matter? Well, it matters because women have long been the backbone of American religion. They're more likely to attend. They're more likely to pray. They're more likely to take their families to church. They're more likely to identify with a faith. So when young women start leaving faster than young men, that is not a side story. That is a major shift in the religious map. So here's a question for you. What happens to American Christianity when the women who used to sustain it stop showing up at church. Because this cuts directly against all the recent chatter about Gen Z coming back to church. Yes, some young men may be getting more interested in religion, but that is not the same thing as a broad revival, especially when the women are not following along. PRRI says 39% of all Americans under age 30 are now religiously unaffiliated, 4 out of 10. And young women are ahead of even that number. Gen Z women are walking away. American religion is going to feel that for a long time.
As a woman, it's much harder for me to subscribe to religion than it is for men, because every single time an argument is presented as to the misogyny behind a religion, men never have to deal with that. They never have to reason with it. They never have to argue it away. They just have to say, but we have to let it go. God could easily provide evidence as to why, he's not misogynistic or religion's not misogynistic. That could all be provided. But he's not choosing to do that. He's not real, in my opinion, but if he was, he's not choosing to do that. I saw a post recently that said when men performed a miracle, religion started, and when women performed miracles, they were burned at the stake. And that was one of those posts that had me sitting here like, I'm pissed off again. I'm pissed off all over again. And it got me thinking that over and over, women have to make these concessions. They have to either choose to not be bothered by it, choose to ignore it, or just let it go. And men don't have to do that. There is nothing in the biblical canon, in the religious text, in the religious ideals that have passed through century after century, space after space in geography and in different political contexts, that has made them have to say, men are worse off for this religion, or they are belittled by this religion. They've never had to, and then they'll come at you and be like, you're a heathen for not believing in it. Well, it's very easy for you to say that, isn't it? And again, like, people will also be like, he's so merciful, he's so graceful. Okay, then like show some evidence there. So show some evidence that like we're completely misinterpreting all of this. Just anything at all. Anything at all that would actually be irrefutable evidence. But he won't, because he can't, because he's not real. But then I have people in my DMs calling me a slut, whore, heathen, and saying I need to die and blah, 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 and I'm a sinner, which, okay, whatever. But I have that because, I choose to exist as a woman that is not religious. It's very easy for you to subscribe to it and for me to not. All evidence points to me not benefiting at all from this, and no evidence. You benefit from it and no evidence. So I guess we understand why I would pick one side and you'd pick the other. But I'm still going to get the insults.
So let me just say this. I am not religious, but I am spiritual. And I do believe, this is going to be controversial, I believe that God is a woman. And the only reason I believe that is because the way women have been treated throughout history. And I just believe the first will be last and vice versa. Women have been burned at the stake, stoned, hung, drugged, raped, beat. That's what makes me believe that God is a woman. They hate us so much, especially black women specifically. That's why I believe the black woman is a God. Because it's no way black women have been treated like this for no reason. And I believe that's why in the Holy Trinity, they don't say anything about the mother. They just say the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. I feel like the woman is God, the Holy Spirit. Because they don't specifically mention a title for the Holy Spirit. They say God the Father, they say the Son, which are titles, but the Holy Spirit is just the Holy Spirit. Like, okay, so where's the mother? I believe they erased woman from history. Like, they erased our history of us being like the greatest, like, hunters and gatherers and just the greatest everything. Inventing stuff, stole inventions and slapped their name and face on it. That's what makes me believe that black woman is God, because black woman is the most hated, the most loving, the most forgiving and accepting. It's like it's in our nature and we can't even stop. Like, God's nature is love, and black women cannot stop having empathy and sympathy for the people that even do them the worst. And that's why you see like these demons getting on TV, Elon Musk, saying that empathy is the greatest mistake of Western civilization. That's the greatest downfall. Black women have so much empathy. even for the men that look like them who have drugged them through the mud. And I'm like, who else can do that besides God? You even have other cultures and races of people telling their children, if they get lost, go to a black woman, because they know black women will protect those kids. Like, every time I hear somebody say something about a black woman, whether it's like Michelle Obama is a man, I'm like, oh, he's doing that because she's God. Every time I hear somebody say something good or bad about black women, I just think in my mind, oh, they're doing that because black women are God. They hate you and call you ugly because you're God. They kick you, crucify you, hang you, shoot you, rape you, abuse you. Malcolm X said the black woman is the most unprotected, the most disrespected. And I feel like whatever happens to black women, good or bad, it's because black women are the original, the beginning and the end. Like the Bible says, I am that I am. I am the beginning of the end. And I know a lot of Christians will listen to me and be like, blasphemy. She's going to hell. She's Satan. She's Jezebel. She's Lilith. Like, I know that because 10 years ago, I would have said the same thing. But I've seen too much now, and I just can't be convinced otherwise that, like, you erase black women from history, you erase them from the Bible. People, like, hate black women the most, and I'm like, yeah, I'm convinced.
Last video, I explained why I believe that God is a black woman, and I want to take this even further. We went over race and we went over gender, that if God had a face, an image, she would be a black woman, not a white man, which is how the entire world actually portrays God. So everyone is bowing down and praying to the anti-God, the opposite of God, the absence of God. And this is really important to know. That's why all of these religions all over the planet were created to cast a spell over people so that they never actually pray to the right God. They're praying to the opposite of who she is. I want to take this idea a little bit further because I am not religious. I'm very anti-religion. I deconstructed the religion I was born into a very long time ago. I do study quantum physics though, and it further proves my theory that God is a black woman. In quantum physics, all realities are birthed through the void. Okay, so it's like a giant plane. You can actually enter the void as soon as you close your eyes. The void is where all existence, all possibilities, all ideas are birthed out of. It's called the great cosmic womb, right? Because the womb is what creates life. It's what births realities. You have the sacred womb in between your legs. Now, the great cosmic womb is black. It's all black. It's a never-ending blackness, and it is a feminine entity. And I was just thinking about this because it does tie into religion, it does tie into science, it does tie into energy. Again, if God had an image, she is a black woman, because the great cosmic mother, the great cosmic womb, is a black womb. This is why black women have the hardest time on a socioeconomic level, because they're going to be the representation of God. And what does the devil do? It tries to beat God down. It tries to remove her power. So yeah, I just had to add that to my theory.
I pray to God that this does not come off as offensive to anybody, because I mean this with the utmost love and respect from the bottom of my whole entire heart. But when a black woman calls me baby, there is so much, what kind of magic are you putting in there? Because that shit hits harder than crack. Every single time, every encounter in my life that I have had with a black woman where she calls me baby, I have never felt more loved and supported in my entire life. I feel almost imprinted on. Like, are you my mother? I will go to the ends of the earth for that woman. Okay, ride or die, because it may have just been a very quick one-time encounter for her, but for me, you don't understand. We're like this. How call me, beat me if you gotta reach me, because I will do whatever. How can I be of service? Do you need a ride to church? Let me make reparations for my people, because I love you. And I don't know what it is, but goddamn, there's something so special about it. It's magic. I want to have that effect on people. That is beautiful. And I love you. And that's it. I don't know. I've never felt more safe and secure in my life.
God is a black woman. Hear me out. The Bible says we are all created in the image of God, which means that God is as diverse as humanity itself. God is straight and God is gay. God is cisgender and God is transgender. God is male and God is female. God is black and God is white, and everything in between. God cannot be contained by or seen as a single race or gender or sexuality. So if your picture of God is as a straight cisgender white man, then your view of God is way too small. The beauty of God is reflected in the vast diversity of humanity. So the next time you look in the mirror, or the next time you see somebody else that looks different from you, remember that too is the image of God.
My tweet is going viral because I said, if you're in trouble and you need to find a black woman, don't find me. I hate that entire narrative, because when black women need help, y'all are nowhere to be found. You're not marching in the streets for us. You're not trying to change laws for us. You just want us to deal with life. And now we are dealing with life, and we don't want to help you. And I'm going to tell you why. When black women need help, when they're trying to have babies, y'all are literally in us. Literally 4 times more likely to, just for trying to have beautiful black children. When our black children try to have birthdays, y'all are riding around in your pickup trucks, literally screaming out racial slurs to children, trying to blow out their birthday candles on a cake with their family and friends at their home. They're not outside terrorizing you. They're literally at their home just trying to blow out birthday candles. Where's the outrage for that? Where's the go help them? No. Or if a black child misses the bus and simply wants to call their mom to tell them that they missed the bus so they can go to school, y'all are shooting them through the door because they might try to rob you. These are school-age children, like 10. So no, don't find me. Find your own people, because when we need help, y'all are not there. You're never there. Sometimes help us, but we already know that you're not going to help us, because history has showed we march in the street for y'all, but y'all don't march in the street for us. And when you get the chance, you stab us in the back. So no, absolutely not. So no, I do not like the narrative of, if something is wrong, go find a black person, because when a black person needs help, y'all are nowhere to be found. You're on the other side and at us.
Could not figure out why they were pushing so hard for teenagers to have babies. It sounds crazy, but it's about house seats. They want teenagers to have babies so that red states can keep their house seats. A creator just did a post on it, and I'm gonna tag her below. But I was here in the 80s when they were talking about, people were declining to have children because there were too many people on the earth. There were too many people having babies. We were eating up all the earth's resources, and to have it flip completely 180 the other direction, it sounded wild. But it's not about Christian culture. It's not about the great replacement theory. It's not about immigration or family values or any of that stuff. It's about the GOP needing to keep those House seats, which are based on population, in those red states, because young people in red states are leaving in droves because there are no jobs there. So the people that would be having kids, who would grow into the middle class and then have kids and do all the things and vote Republican supposedly, are packing up and moving to big blue cities because that's where they can go and find work. So they need teenagers who don't know any better to drop 2 and 3 kids before they hit 20 years old, so they have no choice but to stay in those red states. And all of those kids would be counted towards their numbers. They are in danger of losing House seats without the Democratic Party having to fundraise $1 or even launch an election campaign, because they're going to lose the seat altogether because there aren't enough people in those counties.
It's not too many people having babies on the earth. For them, it's too many brown and black people having babies. And yes, they want to fill those house seats with more white people, but in order to do that, they need white women to be in Christianity and to be under submission and to be bought in with this whole trad wife, housewife thing, because they need to have more babies.
You mean to tell me that Yah created man first, the strongest being on the planet, muscles and everything, and looked at him and said, something is missing. And then he took the rib of that man and created a woman, a weaker vessel, not a weak, vessel, a weaker, meaning in comparison to the man. And then once he created woman, he said, perfect. Yah created a man, the strongest being on the planet, and said something is missing, and turned around and created a woman, a weaker vessel, and then said, this is complete. Men need women because Yah said that men need women.
I want women to realize that the fact that men need women very much puts them in extreme danger. We can see it globally that they don't want to let go of women. They don't want to let go of the power and control that they have over women because of what they've been taught for centuries with these religions. And women don't realize that we're literally behind enemy lines. Women are walking around like they're in a field of daisies, still wanting to date, still wanting to get married, still wanting to give birth on this planet, not knowing that these religions and these teachings are teaching men that they own you, that they control you. And that is why they feel like they have the right to put hands on you and take you out when you try to get away from them or when you try to be an autonomous being. They don't want you to be a being on your own. They don't want you to be without them. So it's not cute. It's not the whole cute jealousy, oh, he loves me thing. No, in his mind, you are lesser than him because you were created from his rib, like in the story that they told y'all. In his mind, you belong to him or nobody else. That's why a lot of men will tell you, if I can't have you, nobody else will. And a lot of women think that's cute. It's not cute. You should be scared. And like always, women need to be getting armed now because it's getting worse. It's growing faster. And y'all need to be on very high alert right now.
Whenever somebody starts being super religious, I honestly feel in danger. And I commented that on a post talking about Christians and how they will try to force their religion on you or condemn you to hell if not. And yeah, somebody was like, you should feel scared because they're literally trying to condemn your soul to fire for eternity.
Not only that, in a lot of these countries, the men feel like they have the right to take the life of the women if the women aren't obeying them, if they're not covering their face or their hair, or if they're speaking out loud, or if they're showing their legs or their eyes, or if they even get assaulted by a man. The men will take the women out if the woman gets assaulted by a man because she is dishonoring her family and she's impure. So they will take the woman out instead of the men that are doing the assaulting. How dangerous is that?
For eternity. And it's like, yeah, actually, we are way too casual about the fact that people just walk around and want to curse your life for not agreeing with them, for not doing what rules they put on themselves if you don't abide by them. Like, what's up with this? They will literally come and attack you. The monks couldn't even go on their peace walk because there was a Christian standing in the way. Like, anybody else feel scared? Who's scared right now? Raise your hand. Because yeah, it is scary. Like, I immediately, when somebody starts getting religious, I immediately just kind of start viewing them as a cult member. I get like empathetic for them, but at the same time, I know I'm dealing with somebody that's not too mentally sound, so I have to get away. And it's a really scary feeling to like come and, especially when they surprise you with it, like when y'all are vibing and then they're like, but you know, that's why I gave my life to the good Lord. And you can too. Especially like they do that approach all the time when you're gay. Like you might think you're vibing with somebody, especially because they might look like you. It might be a sweet little grandma, black friend, just somebody that might be one of the cousins. Then all of a sudden they're trying to steal your soul from you and like normalize it and expect you to go along with it. It's like actually so jarring. Like as soon as somebody discloses that type of information to me, I'm uncomfortable and I feel in danger for my life. Like, how y'all being persecuted, but y'all doing the persecuting?
They'll attack you, beat you, talk about you, slander you, condemn you to hell, and then turn around and tell you you have free will. Like, how is that having free will if I don't do what you say, I'll go to hell, you'll attack me or condemn me or make laws against me? How is that free will when you're like constantly trying to force it up on somebody else.
Hit me as I've been deconstructing my Christianity. I say I basically have deconstructed it, is how much free labor was given to women in the church. Looking back on that, I'm like, women are running these churches for free. The men always seem to give themselves these positions up high where they're like overseen. And then the women are the ones who are doing the actual groundwork, like ministry for this and ministry for that and coffee ministry. But really, it is all a bunch of free labor. It really seems like the church and marriage are mirrored in Christianity, because it's like women are always the ones who are laboring for free without really much praise, sacrificing hours. I mean, I went to a church growing up where the church secretary wasn't even paid. She was literally running the entire church and she wasn't paid. It was a volunteer basis. It's insane. It's insane. And I wish women specifically would wake up and understand how much they're being used, abused in churches. It always falls on women. And it's crazy. I was one of those women for a long time too. I was signing up for this and signing up for that and trying to prove myself and prove my worth. It's like you're trying to be a pick-me for God. You're basically a pick-me for God. Like, let me show you how much I can do for free.
Lied to feminist women talking about how wonderful their life is because they don't have a husband, they don't have children. So they're showing, oh, today I slept in, I went to the spa, I went to Belize. They just talk about how nice their life is because they don't have the inconvenience of a husband and children. And these are young women who have been perpetually lied to. And I'm just telling you, if they do a follow-up at 50, they're not going to be happy. They're going to be working late. They're going to be lonely. They're going to have 7 cats and a couple of STDs. And then at Christmas, they're going to be all alone, very sad. And what they're not going to post is, I'm winning.
By now, you're all aware of the loneliness epidemic that's going on with single men. And what I find really interesting is the amount of men that are coming to their aid. And rather than trying to encourage these men to be better catches, to encourage these men to be better partners, they'd rather try to guilt trip and shame women for not choosing them. Whether it's Tyler Perry saying, even if all he could do is pay the light bill, if he loves you, take him. And now you have this pastor. A pastor sounds like he's listening to these manosphere podcasts. Even the pastor is saying that you're going to die alone. Even the pastor is saying that you might as well get you some cats. You didn't get that out of a Bible, pastor, but you did get it from a podcast. Why not tell these men to be better? Why not tell them to be more emotionally intelligent and to help out around the house and to be caring and thoughtful and loving and to not think that everything revolves around them? As soon as women start decentering men, you start seeing men from the pulpit to the parking lot, sliding down the wall, throwing up and crying and all of that. It's like, they'll do anything but change. They'll do anything but improve. They'll do anything but be a better mate. So now you have this pastor trying to guilt trip and shame women for not choosing these men. There's a reason why they're not getting picked. You tell women to pick better, and when we're not picking you, you get mad about it. It's because you're not better. Telling a woman that she'll be better off with just any of these men than being alone? There are worse things than being single. There are worse things than being alone. The worst thing is actually being with somebody that makes you feel alone. But here they are from the pulpit pushing on you. You know what? You better get somebody because you're getting older. So is he. And if he's worried about being older and being alone, then he better step it up. I'm not even a single woman, but it's exhausting to me the amount of people that don't believe that you can be single and be happy. They could believe that you could be a George Clooney and a Leonardo DiCaprio. You could be a bachelor in your 30s and 40s and 50s and nobody bats an eye. I bet he's having the time of his life. But if a woman does it, oh, I'm sure she's miserable. Not every woman is built for that. Not every woman wants that. But she's selfish if she doesn't choose that, because her life is all supposed to be about service and servitude to some dusty man. They hear you, pastor, but they're not buying it. They're not going to let you convince them that they're not happy when they know that they are. They would much rather be single and selective and waiting until they find somebody that's worthy of their choice than just settle for anybody because the men out here are lonely. They're going to stay that way until they make themselves better choices. There's a woman on here that has 2 dogs and they are absolutely adorable. And she takes really good care of those dogs. Like she bathes them, gives them these like spa treatment for the dogs. I'm talking about cooking steaks for the dogs. Like the dogs eat better than some human beings. And it's just a single woman just taking care of those dogs who treats them like they're her children. The men in the comment section, the way that they are jealous of literal animals. The way that these puppies have these men, they're boxers in a bunch. It is insane. But they feel like all that effort is wasted. Like, because they want one of them to deserve all that effort. Why isn't she making a steak for one of us? Why isn't she clipping our toenails? Why isn't she like, sir? Some of these men, they only think that women are here for their utility. You're only here to be in service to one of them. So if you're out here and you're not serving one of them, they feel like your life is being wasted. How dare you cook and clean and you're not doing it for one of us? Ciao.
What I found interesting about what he said is that all of the things that he said single women are going to be doing into their 50s, they're doing that now, even when they're married. He said they're going to be lonely. Well, married women who are in their 40s and 30s and 50s are lonely. He said they're going to be working late. Married women are also working late now because even if they have jobs outside of the house, they come home and they work with the kids until they go to bed, or they work overtime at work still. He said they're going to have cats. They have cats now. They're going to be alone on Christmas or something. A lot of women are lonely on Christmas. They're in the house doing everything for everybody else, and nobody's doing anything for them. They're working themselves to death around the holidays. Nobody gets them gifts. So everything that he said women are going to suffer for when they get older, they're already doing that in these relationships.
I came across a video that was asking, where are all the 40 and 50-year-old trad wives? The comments were the gift that keeps on giving. There were divorce attorneys chiming in about how these women are in their offices trying to piece their life together after having nothing for the first 25 years because those men cheated on them or had whole separate lives, second families, and then they had to figure out life on their own with no education, no college degree, no job, no career experience. You have a resume that's blank. Boo-boo, they're working at fast food places. These girls who are out there at 19 and 20 years old touting the fact that they don't want an education and only want to be married and crank out babies are in for a rude awakening when they grow up and actually become real adults. Because, honey, I have an 18-year-old, and there is no reality in which 18 and 19-year-olds today are mature enough for any of it. These kids ain't our mother's generation. At 18, my mother was a single mom of 2 kids in the 70s who didn't see a dime of child support. Those women fought for the rights that we have now so they don't end up like these girls are opting into. You can't say we didn't warn you.
The 40-year-old trad wives that used to be trad wives, they're also online making channels warning these girls what not to do, how not to do what they did, and to learn from their mistakes. These 19, 20-year-old girls, 23, 25, they're teaching them what not to do and what to do that they wish they would have did differently. They're doing it in droves. They're telling them, always have your own money set aside that he doesn't know about. Never stay at home too long. And even if he is paying all the bills, make sure you're setting money to the side that he doesn't know about, because the person that you marry is not going to be the person that you divorce. You're going to get in these marriages. You're going to be stuck if you don't listen to the 40-year-old trad wives. And there are a lot of women who just think they're better, younger women. Some of them are going to have to learn the hard way. Like I tell y'all, a lot of women will have to touch the stove at least once before they learn, and so be it. But a lot of them are going to take heed and they are going to listen. I'm 42. I got married at 22 and I had my first baby at 23. When I first got married, I remember my mom told me, always have your money set aside in a different account or somewhere that he doesn't know about. Never share all of your money in your marriage. And I did not listen to her. I told her he would never do nothing like that. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. So I know where a lot of these girls' mindsets are because I was that girl. I did not do that. I'm still married and now I am saving my own money. I have my own account. I do work. I wish I would have did it earlier. I wish I would have started saving in my 20s or my 30s, but I did not. I didn't start saving. probably into my late 30s. So I wish I would have listened to my mom when I was 23, 22. I thought she was wrong. And I'm pretty sure that's the only thing I would listen to my mom. The only piece of advice I would have listened to, because anything could happen. Most of the time it's adultery, but your husband can get sick. He can have a heart attack. He can have a stroke, and you have to step up and take over. And what happens if he doesn't have a lot of money saved, or, y'all weren't saving together? Then that's all on you. It happens all the time because these men do not take care of their health. They're eating like trash, and they don't realize when they get into 40, a lot of these men, I know at least 4 men who are not even in their 50s yet, or in their 50s, and some in their 30s, who have had strokes. Men are having strokes, men are having heart attacks left and right. And the women who aren't working are going to have to deal with that. On top of taking care of them, is women are speaking out about it. It's happening. Women are trying to take care of their elderly parents and their husbands who are breaking down, and sometimes even themselves. They're breaking down because they didn't take care of themselves all those years in the marriages. We're seeing it, we're talking about it, and I'm getting sick and tired of hearing women say, we don't talk about this enough. Nobody's talking about this. Yes, we are talking about it. People just don't want to hear it. Especially men and younger women who think they know everything. They don't want to hear it, but we're talking.
Religion is a control system that convinces people that they're chosen, that everybody else is beneath them. It tells them to obey, to never question, to sacrifice their freedom for some elite who claims to speak for God. It twists genuine spirituality, which should set people free, into dogma that just keeps them enslaved. It's the same pattern everywhere. Governments and religious authorities, they team up to spread propaganda and brainwash us all. They buy out the politicians. They silence anybody's critics with labels like anti-Semitic, conspiracy theorist, extremist, domestic terrorist. It doesn't matter what the label is, though. The point is to just shut you up and keep you from looking below the surface of what they're feeding you. The truth is that most everyday people aren't the enemy. They're victims of the same brainwashing that we are. That's why Jesus, in the middle of being murdered for speaking out against the power and control systems of his day, he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." He saw through the control systems. He knew that people's ignorance wasn't because they were inherently bad, but that their ignorance had actually been manufactured. And he still stood up to it, even when it cost him his life on earth. He knew that death wasn't permanent. I'm not here to placate anybody, though. I'm not here to stay silent either. I'm just here to do a job. I'm here to call out the corrupt systems, the religious systems, the government systems, the financial systems, all of it. And that's exactly what Jesus did. Silence is exactly what they want. They didn't get that from Jesus, and they ain't going to get it from me either. I recently launched something called the Conscious Rebels Network. It is a private, uncensored mentorship community where we can talk about the truth without labels, without fear, and we can actually do stuff about it too. So if you're tired of being silenced and you're ready to break free from all these systems of control, heal yourself for real, and be among others who are also unlearning all of the programming for good, you probably belong here. So go to consciousrebelsnetwork.com or just visit the link in my profile to learn
28 years that I've been a believer in Jesus. Okay.
Can I say something right
Of course
here?
you can. Absolutely.
My message to women is that men need religion. I believe that religion was created for men and that men need it. Men need.
Interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
men need.
Glad we got here.
No, men need a level of fear in them. Without fear and the male not believing that there will be consequences, the male has really no incentive to be a better person. So when they always say you should seek a God-fearing man, there's a reason why they say God-fearing, because men are governed and controlled through fear. The problem is they have tried to put women and govern women the same way that you govern men. Men are the ones who need the controls. Women need to be taught and be free because they're neurologically wired for that. So I applaud you for being a religious guy because men absolutely need religion. Unfortunately, it's the women who are filling the churches, and the pastors are mainly talking to women, and the men are only there for the women, and they ain't listening to nothing because you don't train men or teach men through speaking. You teach men through consequence and reward. So even the preaching mechanism or how the message is conveyed is geared to women, which is not the way these things should be. Women should be free. Men should be controlled because their very nature needs the controls. So it's good that you are a religious guy. I don't think that you shouldn't be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by this thought. I know you don't dabble in hypotheticals. Would you be opposed to indulging one?
Go ahead.
Because I just want to know where your mind would be on this. If dad is not abusive, and all of these men that you had bad experiences with, they're erased, and all of the experiences are with men that were controlled the way they need to be controlled. Are you still across from me at this table with the same paradigm of thought? Do you still believe you arrive at the same conclusion the same way?
Well, that's why you have purpose, right? And everybody has a life purpose. The reality is it was just never meant for me to have an experience that would not allow me to see the truth, right? So I asked
so did the creator put you in these bad experiences?
I do believe that, yes.
To arrive at the truth.
Right. And here's the thing.
And you don't think he has the opposite waiting on you? You don't think he has a man that's going?
Absolutely not.
I do believe that men are the ones who need the religion because it appears that they are the ones who are lacking morals and breaking every commandment every second of every day globally, but not the religion that they have now. All of these religions are teaching them power and control and to harm women and children. And the current system of religion that we have globally now is what has put the entire planet in danger. Men, women, children, and animals. So I think they do need structure and they do need something to believe in and a purpose in life because they literally have no purpose unless the government or other men give them one. They're not birthing children. They're not taking care of children. They're not being homemakers. They're not doing anything but going to work and destroying everything. So they need one religion, but they don't need a toxic religion. And right now, it seems like that's pretty much all we have. The only reason they're going to church is to find a woman to submit to them and to obey them and to abuse like the kids and other women in the church. But yeah, the way that the religion is right now, no, they don't need this type of religion.
Actually, intelligence differences between religious people and non-religious people. And more interestingly, why? My name is Keegan, and I talk about the psychology of politics, and I guess religion for right now. A meta-analysis of 63 prior studies, including data from 137 countries and all 50 US states. Religious people are less intelligent, and the theorized reasons as to why are: number 1, intelligent people are less conforming. Number 2, intelligent people tend to think more analytically, as opposed to more intuitive, gut-feeling style thinking. And the research shows that analytical thinking undermines religious belief. And number 3, this is the most interesting one. What religion provides is also provided by higher intelligence. For example, religion helps you cope with fear of death, fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty, and fear of the chaos and randomness of the world. Intelligence also reduces these fears. Religion provides a blueprint on how to act and helps with self-discipline. Well, intelligence is also associated with self-regulation and self-control abilities. Religion can be self-enhancing, aka giving people a feeling of self-worth. Intelligence does this as well. Here's another interesting thing. The data clearly shows that intelligence matters more than education, with an effect size 3 times larger. By the way, how strong was the correlation between lower intelligence and religiosity? In order to nullify these results, there would have to be over 10,000 new studies showing zero correlation between intelligence and religiosity.
Most men of this generation do not believe they are leaders. They just don't. But they need you to make them feel like they are. And I'm not saying this as an insult. It is an absolute statement of fact. This is why they argue with women and fight with women more than they listen. Because a person who truly believes they are a leader will look at the information from the people they are responsible for and say, how do I solve this problem? When they see a woman hurting, they'll say, what can I do as a leader and as a protector to make sure this hurting stops? I'm not worried about what she calls herself, whether she calls herself a feminist or not. I'm not worried about what's going on in her heart. I'm focused on mine. To understand what I'm saying, imagine, and I know sometimes it's hard to imagine, but imagine there's a righteous or good or sincere politician, right, who's been voted into office. When the people who are under him are complaining, he's paying attention and taking in the information for what he can do while he fulfills that role. He's not arguing and fighting with people. Yes, it's lovely if they speak a certain way and all that, but as long as he is not being threatened and he's not in any danger, he's not caring about how they say it or even what they say, because it's all information that will help him do his job. Only a person who doesn't see themselves as responsible and a protector and a leader is going to be worried about what people say. Okay? Because they don't believe that they have that position anyway. Okay? Think about it like this. Let's say the politician, the people come to the meeting and the people are saying, this is what's wrong in our neighborhood. This is what needs to happen in our cities. And he's like, why are you complaining? I have it hard too. Is that a person who really believes they're in a position of leadership? Either this person doesn't believe they're in that position, or they think that the only thing in that position is for them to be given praise. Another example is you go to a judge and you state your case to the judge, and after the judge hears everything that you have to say, the judge says, you think that's so bad? You don't know what we go through as judges. You don't know what we go through behind the bench. Why? Because this is a judge that doesn't really feel that they're truly a judge. They need you to behave a certain way. They don't want to hear your case because they don't feel like they have the tools to solve it. All they want you to do is see their pain and see what they're going through. And they want you to praise them and say your honor and all that. But they don't have the tools to solve anything because they do not see themselves in the position that they have been assigned. And you can't do anything with that person.
Let's clarify this real quick. White women do not need white men to uphold white supremacy. It's the opposite. White men need white women to behave and participate in specific ways to uphold white supremacy and to perpetuate the system. We uphold it. We perpetuate it. It's on us. We choose how we raise the next generation of children. We choose who we vote into public office. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, oh, Stockholms, oh, we've been tricked, oh, you're saying that white women put up with or want, DV and all that stuff. Yeah. Sure. You can say all of that. And those are all excuses for you not to sit down and examine the internal bias that perpetuates white supremacy within this nation. Because if you are a white woman in today's day and age, utilizing those excuses as to why you don't like what I'm saying, you are part of the motherfucking problem. You are part of everything that is upholding and perpetuating this system that oppresses so many people. It's on us. We are the largest voting bloc in America. I'm not going to stop tooting that fucking horn for a second, especially with elections around the motherfucking corner. If you are a white woman and you are voting for someone who you know is not going to make serious political change in society that will benefit Black, brown, and indigenous persons, you're part of the fucking problem. You're the one upholding the system, not the other way around. White women first need to recognize that this is an issue. 2, we need to recognize the real role and power that we have played in creating all of the systemic issues in society. And 3, we need to recognize how we perpetuate the problem through how we raise our children and how we have voted. Enough already. White women have zero excuses in today's day and age. None.
The most dangerous thing about religion isn't extremism. It's not religious wars or even the scandals. It's complacency. Why would you ever challenge a system that has brainwashed you to believe in it since childhood? Through fear, doubt, and obedience, the church keeps you in line. Just like that, your mind switches off. One thing less to worry about. It gives people a gold-plated excuse to stop thinking because they become smug about their religious beliefs. They use standard replies such as, "My faith says so," case closed. They have no questions, no doubt, there's no discussion. It's as clear as black and white, night and day. They call it devotion and virtue. Follow the leader, don't ask why. Trust the institution. That's not faith. That's blind obediency, complacency. The true spirituality was never meant to be prepackaged. It was meant to be wrestled with, questioned, earned. The greatest minds, the greatest souls never stopped asking hard questions, because once you stop, you're just like sheep being led to the slaughter.
I'm so glad that there is a video going around discussing how the trad wife style of life does not exist for people like myself who are over 40. And the reason it doesn't exist is because we're all divorced. If my 40-something-year-old self could go back and give advice to my 20-something-year-old self, I would say to get as educated as possible, to get a career, and to make as much money as possible so that I did not have to rely on somebody for resources, housing, money, clothes, anything, nothing. And why I say that is because if you subject yourself to the trad wife lifestyle, then control will become a thing. It may be subtle, it may be large, and however that ends and when it ends, the first thing they will take away from you is money and resources. And even if you get half of everything, and you may or may not, you don't get half of their job experience and you don't get their equal salary. It's not going to shake out for you. Do not do it.
As I got older, went to college, did more research, I began to see that, like, yeah, Christianity isn't just a place where I feel unsafe. It is a mechanism that has been used for decades upon decades, if not longer, to keep women submissive, to honor the man, and to make the man the center of attention. Christianity is inherently a male-centered religion. Because why are we calling God a man? First of all, God is supposed to be a spirit, a thing. Gender shouldn't even be applied, but we're going to apply gender and call it a man? Second of all, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it not women who create life? God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days. Women create life annually, but we're going to give the gender of the dominant spirit out there man. That's what we're going to do? Okay. That always, and if you want to piss off a Christian, refer to God as she. You want to set them off, you call God a she, a her, and watch them blow it. And then when you say, well, isn't God a spirit? Well, yeah, but what? What does it matter? If you ask me, the Christian church is an ego stroke for men. And I think it's an ego stroke for men because I think a lot of men, whether they realize it or not, there is a systemic envy that women are able to create life and they cannot. That women have the quote unquote power to create life in ways that men cannot. And I think as a way to make up for not being the center of attention in that way, they have positioned themselves as the creator above all creators, who should be deified, not just for creating life, but for creating everything. It is a chance for men to feel served and like they are owed things because they simply are a man. Because to be a man is to be like Christ, because Christ is a man as well. So one of the biggest reasons why I'm so grateful that my mother did not pressure my sister and I to remain in the church is because the church, I feel, conditions women to also be male-centered. If the spirit you are giving all of your praise and worship to is a man, it makes it very easy for you to put men on a pedestal, whether you mean to or not. If the idea of God being a woman upsets you, as if that is disrespectful to God, that lets me know that you are not accustomed to looking at women in a certain way, in a certain light, and are more preferred to look at women as less than a man. Is that not male-centered? If day in and day out you're being taught that as a woman, the man is superior, and that to be a godly woman is to serve men, and to make sure that the men that you know, the head of your household feels like he's a man, is that the third. Is that not centering men?
Overnight, Pete Hegseth removed 180 recognized religions from military services. This is just another step towards Christian nationalism. From a list of over 200 religions, it's now 31. Most of them are Christian-based, because the goal ultimately is to force Christianity to be the only recognized religion, and then it's going to be their version of Christianity, that if you don't believe all the doctrines they believe, you're wrong. It's about using God to sanctify what you're already doing. In the First Crusade, Pope Urban II saw the opportunity to assert papal authority over Christian kings, and so he called for the First Crusade. He rallied people together. He promised them that any Christian who died on the march or as part of the crusade would automatically be guaranteed salvation. He said it was their job to save Jerusalem, and he screamed, Deus vult, Deus vult, the same tattoo Pete Hegseth has on his arm. God wills it, God wills it. And what followed was a year of carnage. When they went across the Rhineland, they slaughtered Jews and Muslims indiscriminately. They slaughtered Eastern Christians in Anatolia. And when they got to Jerusalem, they came in, killed everyone. It didn't matter if they were a Muslim or a Jew or an Eastern Christian, if they were a woman, a child, a man, it didn't matter. They killed everyone. In fact, a chronicler of that time said that the blood ran up to the horses' knees, and then the Crusaders came out into the streets and sang hymns as they danced in the blood. We know that this is not about Christianity, but it is a move towards Christian nationalism. We saw outside Delaney Ice Center where there was a First Amendment zone where you got arrested if you didn't exercise your First Amendment right in a zone, a violation of our freedom to protest. We've seen blatant attacks on the press, and now this is a blatant attack on the freedom of religion. I don't care how weird, wacky, or unique your religion is, you have the right to practice it, and it should be recognized, because that is your right to do so. If you have any illusions of it can't happen here, it can't happen here, yes, it can, and it is. Think about the fact that 10 years ago, saying remove women's right to vote would have shut an entire movement down, and now it's not, because even the people on the right that aren't peddling that aren't silencing it either. I grew up in this movement, and I am telling you, they do not believe in religious plurality. They believe in Christianity only, which is why some of our elected officials fly the Christian nationalist appeal to heaven flag outside their congressional offices. They do not believe in a woman's right to vote. They do not believe in you being able to choose who you want to love. They believe in only their version. And the reason they do is not because they care about Christ. It's an entire administration built on corruption, adultery, drunkenness, bribes, and child predation. They're monsters. But the only thing more dangerous than a tyrant or an authoritarian regime is one that says God gave them permission, and therefore anyone who is opposed to them and their beliefs and what they want to do is against God himself.
Jessica Valenti asked the question, where are the 47-year-old trad wives? Where are these trad wives that are in their 40s and 50s right now? She says, if conservatives are so sure being a trad wife is what makes women happiest, then why are they hiding the middle-aged trad wife? So she asked this question and got a ton of women responding. Let's look at these women 20 years down the line. Yes, you can talk to the 20-somethings. They will speak on being a trad wife and being happy to serve their homes, blah, blah, blah. But what about the middle-aged women? It should be fine, says, we all divorced and went on to live lives of meaning. Melissa at the bottom says, they are in my office as my clients. I am a divorce attorney. G Baby at the bottom says, they're also in my office. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Malika says, this is the reality, bitter, painful truth, but psychiatric help is necessary after walking away to fix and regain your sanity. It's like crawling out of a battlefield, yet you don't know what hit you. It is wild to compare being married as crawling through a battlefield. Melissa says, by the way, this is not a diss, just the truth. Grace says, or mine. I'm a trauma therapist. Mate at the bottom says, they're also at my office. I'm a social worker. Tawina Noble says, it was me, 44, married at 19 in Alabama, divorced after 16 years, became a CEO and state senator. Congratulations, ma'am. Raised all 4 of our children. They're amazing. I'm amazing. Life is amazing. Jessica says, that's awesome. Kaylee says, if you became a CEO, you're not a trad wife then, are you? But she says, it was me. This person, Callie, didn't see the was. She's not saying that she still is. Angela asked the same question. Well, then you're not a middle-aged trad wife then, are you? But the whole point is many of them get divorced. That's why there aren't that many to say, hey, It's me. I'm still married. I'm in my 40s and 50s. Kev says, all y'all who are trying to tear this woman down read what she wrote with the intent to respond and not understand. Y'all clearly missed the was in her statement. Reading is fundamental. Safi Kata says, divorced, not a trad wife. Emily says, I'm married to a woman now. Annette says, good for you, honey. And then Lillian at the bottom says, period. C says, we got cheated on and divorced. Sierra says, outside child at that. Cuba Libre says, but no one wants to hear this. Sensational says, Lord have mercy, this lifestyle sounds demoralizing and dehumanizing. M says, whose fault? C says, cheating is always the fault of the cheater. Nikki D says, yes, we did. I stayed home for 20 years and raised and homeschooled his 8 children, only for him to impregnate another woman and leave. Koozie says, that's me. Married a 30-year-old at 19. Divorced now, got my bachelor's last week. Congratulations. Starting my master's. So she got divorced and then she had to restart with the education. This is the reason why I talk about women in their 20s should not be giving their 20s to their man, to a man. They need to be focused on their education, getting their career together, and getting financially stable. Slay Samantha says, married at 23, divorced at 35. Actually happy and married to a woman now. Sweaty Hands McGee says, I volunteer as an emergency counselor for a DVSA hotline. And I like to remind people that divorce isn't the worst thing that happens to these women. It's not nice to put these women down. I believe we need to uplift them so they don't end up in truly dangerous situations. Sophia at the bottom says, 44 here, married 17 years, stay-at-home mom for over a decade, now divorced and finally getting some traction in the workforce. 4+ years after our relationship ended, it has been a journey because when you spend almost 2 decades out of the workforce, it is hard to gain traction. Tia says, 48 here, was left broke and in years of therapy. Stephanie Morales says, my mom divorced and broke. Dale says, single for 10 years and happy. C says, my mom is 66, divorced, broke, and alone. It says alone and unhappy. You can't really see that, but y'all get the point. People are really talking. They are in her comment section speaking on what happens. And folks need to see this because when they see the curated, the influencers, the trad wife influencers, they see a woman wearing a trad wife costume. They see a cosplay of what this looks like. They don't see the reality. Reality is if you stay out of the workforce for a long time, you don't have retirement credits. This person could just up and leave you. What would you do then? You don't have retirement. You don't have any job experience that is relevant right now. What do you do? A lot of these women end up broke. This is how many of these women end up in poverty. Folks like to act like women are just taking these men for everything they have, but many of them are not. A lot of times they are poor and they are in worse condition had they just worked all of their lives. Di said, this comment section motivated me to keep going through med school. Please take this as your fuel to keep going. If you do plan on coming out of the workforce for a few years to have babies, if you are planning to, understand the risk that could go along with it. This is the reason why you need to have some fallback money. You need to have a just in case. You need to have a plan B, C, D, E, F, G, LMNOP, all of the plans, because you simply do not know. All right, I'm going to end this. This is what the comment section is looking like. And folks need to be real about this. The trad wives are talking. The ex-trad wives are talking. The people that service the trad wives and ex-trad wives are talking. So y'all continue to talk and share as well.
Get that out of a Bible passage, but you did get it from a podcast. Why not tell these men to be?
Because if the men get better, the women might run out of things to come to church to pray for. Women are keeping the lights on in church. Women bring men to church. Men run the church. You might overcome financial adversities. You might overcome health adversities. What the church can do is work to ensure that you keep having relationship problems.
Young men are becoming religious again, but I don't think it's about spirituality. I think it's about trying to make suffering feel meaningful again. Because recently there's been a growing discussion around the return of religion, particularly amongst young men. So welcome back to another episode of Red Thread, a series where I explore patterns I've been noticing as I move through the social world. A recent study found that in America, the percentage of men aged 18 to 29 who see religion as central to their life has risen to around 42%. Among women of the same age group, that number sits much lower, closer to 30%. And most conversations around this trend tend to frame it through loneliness. Young men are isolated, disenchanted, searching for meaning and community in an increasingly atomized world. And honestly, I think there's truth to that, but I also think there's another layer here that people don't talk about enough. The relationship between religion and work. One of my favorite sociologists, Max Weber, wrote extensively about this in The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. Weber argued that the early Protestantism, particularly Calvinism, fundamentally reshaped how people understood labor. Before this shift, work was often viewed more instrumentally. You worked enough to survive modestly. But Protestantism reframed labor as something moral, a calling or a duty to God. Hard work, punctuality, discipline, and even the accumulation of wealth became signs of virtue. Work itself became spiritually meaningful. And Weber's point wasn't necessarily that religion created capitalism alone, but that capitalism originally needed this ethical framework to justify itself. Because without meaning attached to labor, people are less willing to endlessly devote themselves to it. I think that's incredibly relevant right now, because we're living through a moment where faith and economic mobility is collapsing. The middle class feels increasingly unstable. Young people are working constantly while struggling to afford housing, stability, or long-term security. So in a strange way, religion may not just be returning because people are lonely, but because it offers moral meaning to difficult conditions, especially for young men, a cohort who have reported to increasingly feel devoid of clear structure or initiation, as though this new world has left them behind. So yes, the rise of religion may absolutely be about community and re-enchantment, but it may also reflect a desperate search for meaning inside systems that no longer seem capable of rewarding people materially. Because if modern capitalism can no longer promise prosperity, religion then can still promise purpose.
So I recently came across this New York Times article. This is the New York Times saying this, right? It's really interesting. 42% in a Gallup poll they featured in the article say 42% of men ages 18 to 29, there's a resurgence of interest in faith in God, right? They say that religion is very important to them. I think it's very telling. And I also think this is a time for us to capitalize on this type of momentum and gift them things that are going to bring them into the world of faith in Christ, right? And why not give them things that are going to, build them up and kind of spark their interest and explain in a practical way what it means to have faith in Christ. Why not gift them a copy of my first book, He Calls Me Redeemed, or my new book that just came out, He Meets Us in the Dark?
The problem with giving them things is they don't want the things unless it's money or women. That's the problem. If they can't go to church and get promised a wife that is going to slave for them and take care of their kids and work for free while they're out earning all the money for themselves and only having to pay bills and not give her anything else, they're not going to want it. Because they know that money is power. They know that having a wife helps them get more money and more power. So those are the two things that they've been taught that are valuable. But at the same time, they also don't value women. They know that women are valuable to them, but they don't really value women as humans, which is just crazy, y'all.
Good. Click the link in the bio. Either one are available. Gift them to the young men in your life. And, if there is someone that you're gifting it to that you want me to personalize a copy, reach out, see if we can make that happen. Let's capitalize on this kind of situation. God bless you guys.
Okay, I'm not letting this one slide. If you're a young woman in this country trying to date a young man, and you think this headline that for the first time in a long time that there are more religious young men than women does not apply to you or have political ramifications, let's sit down. If you've been around here long enough, you've probably guessed that I like to look at the politics of fashion, the politics of dating, and as a Christian who has fought very hard to find a place in the faith as a Black woman and as a woman specifically, it doesn't matter if you're Christian or not Christian, what is happening inside church communities, and especially one of the most politically significant groups of people who get to determine what women do with their lives, their time, and their bodies, this matters, especially for the future. There's been this idea that as time passes and we get older and people grow up, that these old-fashioned, really repressive ideas about, using God in the church to treat women badly or Black people badly, it's just going to die off. It's not. it's not going to die off, because what a lot of these Southern Baptist churches have to offer young men right now is a sense of safety, superiority, and security in a shifting America. It's obvious that things are changing. There used to be a time where the ideal American and the person who had all this power, all this social power, all this political power, and was the default norm was somebody who could be identified as a young white man. In fact, that often wasn't even an identity these people had to think about. It's only been recently that young men are aware of the fact that they, as men, have inherited a society that has these gendered privileges and these assumptions and these biases that have worked in their favor. Of course, they don't think that these biases are, really working in their favor now, simply because they're being criticized or critiqued or challenged. There is always a time in history when a people group that has been other or has been dehumanized or has been made less than the reigning dominant person, once they start to step into their power and they start to step into their time, their space, and their agency, and the society actually starts to affirm and validate that, even if it's kicking and screaming, the original dominant group feels fear, or they feel insecure, or this is not the world that they were raised for or trained for. It's an obvious thing that many of you have seen in dating, where these men were raised by men and women who put up with a lot of nonsense from other men.
The consciousness that decided to incarnate into Jesus, into the Buddha, into these philosophers, they chose a male vessel in a patriarchal society. That's not by accident, right? They chose to incarnate into a male vessel. Why? So they could be an example for what? Males in a overly masculine, hyper-masculine, toxic masculinity society, the patriarchy that we have now and that has existed since biblical times.
Hey, there's a lot of chaos and this is order. There's a surge in men going to church because men need order more than like women need order, because women have like guardrails in their lives built in and men don't. And as it turns out, a lot of things marketed towards men are the opposite of order: gambling, porn. And they're just looking for a binding ideology where someone tells them, hey, this is the thing to do, these are the things not to do. This is not a middle-class lifestyle choice, but this is an anti-chaos, pro-order choice. People need the 3 B's: behavior, belief, and belonging. A lot of young people, because this is the story at the end of the day about young people, lost all 3 of those after the post-COVID malaise. This kind of gives them all 3 of those, and that's a good thing. Behavior, the behavior of getting your ass up on a Sunday, doing this thing with other people, that matters. That's behavior. Belief, believing in something that's bigger than you, bigger than the me culture, believing in something that is transcendent. Third B, like the belonging part matters a lot more. You read all of these people's testimonials. Oh, you can either partake in gambling, or you can come over here, talk to people, listen to good music, and you might meet a pretty girl. 2 things can be true at once: that yes, there's a marketing thing here, yes, there's the cosmetics of it all, but at the end of the day, this is a shift away from the mass cultural rotten fruit of secularism. They wrote and talked ad nauseum about secularism when I was in school, and I read all of those. And I don't want to argue about God or no God, but at the end of the day, the primary problem that they fail to solve is the question of meaning. And God provides answer to that. And I'm not religious, but I believe in God. And I know a lot of people like that who are not capital C Catholic, but they just want to believe in something that binds them together.
If you made it to the end of this video, then you already know this is a conversation people need to be having. So don't leave quietly. Like this video, comment your thoughts below, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Every interaction pushes this conversation further into the algorithm and helps this channel grow.
No pictures testify that lack of God really coexists. Reject the fact that non-believers study science and religion. My mind is on a mission. They say I must be tripping cause my vision's slightly different. Let's talk about religion. Yeah, let's talk about religion. Yeah, let's talk about religion. My mind is on a mission. They say I must be tripping cause my vision's slightly different. Let's talk about religion. Yeah, let's talk about religion. Yeah, let's let's talk about religion. Muhammad said the Quran is the word of God. My jurisdiction or your tradition has my mind flipping as a Christian. My motives keep your soul lifted and have faith in the man that they say never existed. We have ethnic people in this world without religion.